that first night, I remember going in the bathroom to take a leak, and I was the only guy in there. Scott comes in behind me, and I see him looking, because I'm looking at that plexiglass in front of me, with the ads at the urinal, and then I see him looking under the stalls to make sure nobody's in the room, and I'm like, oh man, I'm getting ready to get jacked. I bet, because he's a big dude, and I'm like, oh. And I'm like looking, I'm going, he looks pretty daggum tough,
So what is the line then with entrapment? Is it black and white, or is it more gray? We haven't talked about like biker gangs or clubs, as they prefer to be called, on this show. So give us like a quick idea of what these 1%er clubs are, and then how the case started.
Everything's a case by case. It can be a chapter by chapter. And I'm not saying that all 1%ers are criminals, although it does kind of go with the 1%er motto, because the 1%er motto came out around 1960. Vietnam was going on, and guys were getting out of the military, getting out of Vietnam and coming back, and they started creating these biker clubs, and they were doing some nefarious things, a little raucous, and the president of the American Motorcycle Association came out and did a big media blitz and said 99% of all motorcycle riders are good, law-abiding citizens. It's only 1% that are bad. And they took that as a badge of honor, which I think it's kind of cool too. I'm like, all right, I'm a 1%er. But I did used to joke with them. I go, so you're the Outlaws, 1%er. Hell yeah. And you hate the Hells Angels. Yeah. Well, they're 1%ers. Yeah. Wouldn't it make more sense if y'all all bonded together and fought the 99? Or am I wrong? Is that me? Am I wrong on that one? So 1%ers, you're a 1%er club. You're wearing that patch. Does that mean you're doing criminal activity? I don't know. What I saw, depending on chapters, you might have one chapter that's older. Maybe everybody's got a job. Maybe they've already done their time. And they're like, other than some street level stuff, which is still illegal, but not a lot there for a federal case. And then you can go to another chapter, like the one that we were in the Outlaws case. And let's just say out of like 13 to 15 dudes, 1.5 had a job. One had a towing company. The other one was a tattoo artist and piercer, and I don't think he worked all the time, so that's why I said half. Everybody else, straight thug, man. No job, hustling, dope, selling drugs, stealing cars. That's how it started with me. Once they found out I was actually doing criminal stuff, and that I can move stolen goods, they would report their vehicle stolen, so they would get their insurance money. But I would get rid of the vehicle and I would buy it from them at a stolen price, somewhere around 20% usually. And they believed I was moving those to Mexico. So you get through several of those deals and they're making money, and we're bonding more and more. We're connecting more and more. And then they carjack somebody and they're like, hey, Tex, we got a car and it is hot. You got to get rid of this thing, and it's got a tracker on it. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Me and my guys, they won't even know. This thing will be in Mexico in a couple of days, And then you get more trust. And then we started getting into drug deals and everything else. So that's how that case was 2 years. The case team had already been working it, building it up. It really came from the task force guys that came on. There was a sergeant out of Massachusetts State Trooper, and there was a detective out of Brockton PD. And then the FBI opened the case, and they had a case agent. The first case agent changed relatively quick in the case. And then the case agent became one of my buddies, who we actually went through the Quantico new agents training together. He's the one that actually took me to New York and showed me around places to possibly live, because I had no idea what I was doing. But he became the case agent, and we started kicking it, man.
So how do you do your initial bump?
So what I did is they had really good intelligence on certain things, like certain people in that chapter of the Outlaws, and their mentality. There was one guy that apparently loved to be the center of attention, loved to have big dudes around him. And I'm 260 now, but I probably ran around 280 then, I don't know, and held it pretty well back then. Sometimes better than others. depending on how much traveling and drinking I was doing, and how much weight room I was missing. But we had that intelligence, and we knew that they frequented a certain strip club in Brockton, Massachusetts. So I went to the club a couple of times on my own, just to kind of meet people and do my thing. Because I knew a lot how the industry works, because I did used to bounce in those clubs in North Charleston. Those were the bars I started at. I joke all the time. Like, they call them gentlemen's clubs, and I'm like, kind of an oxymoron. I've been to many of them. I wasn't necessarily a gentleman when I was there either. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know about gentlemen, So I went in there, and I kind of got the lay of the land, let people see me, meet me. Again, Massachusetts, I opened my mouth. Can I help you? And I'm like, yeah, I'll get 2 Jack and Cokes. What? I'm like, hey, dadgum, I'd like to get me, Where are you from? I'm from Texas. And then it all culminated one night when they came in after their church meeting, which, for the listeners that don't know, there's a mandatory meeting every week, and they call that church. So they had their church meeting, and they all left there and came to the Foxy Lady. And I was in there. I was already on one side of the bar. No different than me last night. I got here late. I think the only thing that was open till midnight was Miller's Ale House. So I went there. I said, Uber me, take me. I got to get something to eat. And I sat at the bar and heard some conversation. I just started talking to people. It was just connecting with people, Sometimes they bite, sometimes they don't. Next thing you know, we actually knew some of the same people. Yeah, the dude ended up being a firefighter who'd taken alert training, and I'm like, oh man. So, but that's what I was doing, and I'm cracking jokes and laughing, and it's getting loud, and that guy's watching. He's watching. He's like, hey, what the hell's going on over there? And he's probably already asked the bartender, who is that? Oh, that's the guy. He's been here. And they called me over. That's kind of how it happened. We just started talking, shooting the shit back and forth, joking. And again, I'm familiar with the environment. I'm a biker, and when I bounced in North Charleston, South Carolina, that's a Hells Angels state. Hells Angels used to be in there all the time, and they actually helped me several times in a fight. Looking back on it, I'm pretty sure they were slinging dope in that bar. I was too naive to know that at the time. And when I say I'm pretty sure, I'm saying I know they were slinging dope in that bar. And I'm like, oh, okay. No wonder you wanted to help me in a fight, Hey, at that point in time, I'm not law enforcement. I'm just happy to get help. But, yeah, I knew how the environment worked, and I went over there and started talking. And like the first night, this guy, Spanky, he gives me a couple of cards. He says, hey, when are you coming back up? We're having it's the Lobster Festival. Lobster Festival up in Brockton, and it's like a northeast regional. So biker clubs, outlaws from all over the Northeast. And by the time I went there, I'd already met Scott Town. And actually, I'm pretty sure they had Scott check me out, because that first night, I remember going in the bathroom to take a leak, and I was the only guy in there. Scott comes in behind me, and I see him looking, because I'm looking at that plexiglass in front of me, with the ads at the urinal. And I see him looking, and I see him looking under the stalls to make sure nobody's in the room. And I'm like, oh man, I'm getting ready to get jacked. I bet, because he's a big dude. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like looking, I'm going, he looks pretty daggum tough, One of the few guys I probably met that I'm not sure you could choke, because his jaw literally sits on his clavicle. You could do a neck crank. I'm like, I don't know about getting under here. It's like that, like a turtle. I'm like, man, it's not even cool. But yeah, he comes up, and I think I'm getting ready to get jacked, and he comes right next to me and he goes, so what brings you up here? And he starts asking me all these questions. And had I bluffed, I'd have been done right there, because I said, oh, I'm down in McAllen. He had been to Brownsville right there. Said, I'm from South Carolina. He'd been to Spartanburg, right near where I grew up. I was to Texas, San Antonio, Austin. He'd been to all those places, because he used to fight dogs across the country. And I'm like, boy, I'm glad. If I'd have been bluffing, I'd be done right there. And then I started getting invited. So by the time I came back, I was already in touch with Scott. I went and picked him up, and I went with Scott as Scott's guest to the Lobster Fest. Lobster Lapse time. And the funny part I put in there, I'm like, man, I'm trying not to attract too much attention. Now, even though I'm a bigger guy and with tattoos and stuff, I blended right in there. I mean, there's all kinds of big dudes in there with tattoos and leather and ponytails and facial hair and whatever. But I'm trying to lay low, and they were doing a raffle. So when you go in, you buy your Brockton bucks. So you buy the tickets, and then you use those to buy drinks and stuff. And I won the raffle. I'm like, man, I'm already getting scrutinized. Like people are like, who the F are you? And I'm like, Scott walks in front of me, big dude. He's like, hey, and they're like, hey, big Scott, what's going on? Who the F are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm just his bitch. I'm like, I guess I'm his bitch today. That's it. I'm following him around. And then I remember they called out the raffle, and I looked and I go, holy shit, I think I won the damn raffle. And I showed it to Scott, and he goes, yeah, you won. I go up there and get it. He goes, you go up there and get it. You won it. And I'm like, no, you go. And he's like, I couldn't say, man, hey, I'm an FBI guy. I'm trying to not be so noticeable. And plus, I really couldn't make any money. That's an attorney general exemption. You have to get the attorney general exemption to make money. And I'm like, I just won like $600. So all I did was walk up on stage, get the money. I walked over, I got 2 Jack and Cokes, and I put the rest of the money in the tip jar. I'm like, that's for you guys. But yeah, and then after that, you just keep bonding, and they start learning more about me. Oh, you're actually into some criminal stuff. Oh, really? Okay. And then they see it, and then they want to take part of it. Then they make money, and again, if nobody's doing anything illegal, I know you get people that hate, and I understand why. But somebody will say, well, if you look, you led everything. I didn't lead everything. That's entrapment. You can't do that. That's like Undercover 101. You don't do that. You can't do that. But I'm like, if you're not doing anything illegal, what are you worried about? Like I told you before, I've gone in, met with people, hung out, trained, shot, whatever, drank, ate, 5 months, nothing. It's like, all right, I'm moving. Something happened. I got to lay low for a while and just ghost. But that case started getting a lot of stuff. We started finding, like I said, about home invasions. I think there was some prostitution in there. But the case team got to see all that. I'm doing this one. I'm doing my part as the undercover, but they're working all behind the scenes, and they also went up on a Title III wiretap. So we're doing all kinds of stuff.
So what is the line then with entrapment? Because does there have to be some sort of predication, or could you set up a scenario? Like, is it black and white, or is it more gray?
I want to say gray, but really it's black and white because you should know your job, and you should know the rules, and you should know the Attorney General guidelines and our policy and what the law says. I can't go up to a group of white supremacists and have a person of color with a rope in my hand and go, look what I found. You know what I mean? That's kind of like me leading it. If you're broke and you're just trying to make money for your family and you've never talked about dope whatsoever, we have no intelligence that you've worked dope, that we have no interviews that say you sold dope, nothing to do with that. And I walk up and I go, hey man, I got a kilo. If you help me drive it over here, I'll pay you $30,000. Now we're getting into some entrapment. I'm dangling a carrot in front of you. You're not predicated at all. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good at all.
Yeah, then you're just kind of like testing human nature on a scenario that you created, right?
Which a lot of people will fail on. Like they would do, like, sometimes say you got to test a source to make sure they can tell the truth. I'm like, my source is a pill addict. If you give this dude 1,000 pills, I'm telling you, he's going to fail this test. That's why I'm not giving him 1,000 pills. You know what I mean? It's like, we're going to test him. We're going to give him 1,000 pills and see if he turns it. He's going to go buy it, but we're going to give him a little extra. And we're going to see if he says, if you're testing somebody to see if they're trustworthy, and we're going to see if he says that he actually got 1,000 pills, or did he get the 500 that he's supposed to buy? I'm like, oh, he's going to fail. We don't need to test him. He's a drug addict. He's going to fail. I would fail. I'm like, no, So you got to be careful. And again, that's when you're working with the United States Attorney's Office. Let them know everything. And we try to build good cases. And for me, every undercover case I did, everybody pled guilty, except after I retired. There was one base person that had tagged a synagogue, and for whatever reason, in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, they had not prosecuted it. And I guess it's set. I don't know whether they lost it, it's set or whatever, but it came to knowledge and people were like, why? But it's like 4 years after. I'm like, I've already retired like 2 years. And they're like, we need you. And I'm like, okay, why are they going to trial? I'm like, you've got this person, this person. I said, what happens if I don't make it? And they said that he'll walk. So I went up there. I testified for like an afternoon and then came back in the morning and testified, and he was found guilty. But that was the only one, but that's post bureau. And like I said, he was found guilty. I mean, you sprayed the synagogue, man, you know? But everybody else, as far as my undercover work went, yeah, everybody pled guilty.
So when you're like, I would imagine you don't want to be, especially in a group like that, they're aware of, or they're, like they'd presumably been penetrated before. They're aware that that's a possibility.
For decades.
Right. So they're like on their shit, and you can't just go in there and be super eager, like, hey guys, let's commit some crimes. Like from your perspective.
There's a scene from it's an old cheesy movie, Corky Romano. It's the dude from Saturday Night Live. I got it. I use it in training because they dress him up like a white supremacist. He's fake bald head, and he walks in and he goes, hey, you guys want to commit some hate crimes or something? It's like, that's what I pictured when you did it. Yeah. It's about that bad.
Yeah, but so when do you know, like, obviously you're proving your bona fides over time. Like you first, like you drop in some breadcrumbs, like, oh, like, Scott maybe have some affiliation with, he's done some things in the past, but like, at what point do you know that it's right to like set the hook kind of, you know what I mean?
I don't know. I just feel it. I mean, because it's not like I'm great all the time. It's not like I'm always successful. Sometimes you throw something, you're like, oh, that didn't work, I don't know. For me, it's just feeling it. Now I will say in the Outlaw case, at a year and a half in, we had done a lot of stuff. And at that point, it was like the U.S. Attorney's Office, the case team, me, was like, okay, they've been asking for dope since day one. Now let's try to introduce that. And that's what we did. I said, I let them know that I used to move a lot of dope with my truck drivers and stuff. And we laid that out in breadcrumbs because they'd been asking. And think of it from a drug dealer standpoint. If you deal drugs, what do you want? You want the purest quality of dope you can get for the cheapest price you can get, because then that means you can probably step on it at least once and double your money kind of thing. And they knew that I was based on the border, and they knew that my truck drivers, Hispanic, that, went and supposedly took all these vehicles and we moved all kinds of stuff. They believed that I was a high-ranking member of an international theft ring. That's what they believed, and that's what I laid out. And then we upped the ante to say, okay, you've been asking for dope for a year and a half. Here it is. We got cartel coming in. They got dope. They got to sell it to another group, but that group's out of Canada. Long story short, they don't have their connections at the port of entry anymore. I'm not sending my truck drivers through there unless you got me a guarantee, because that's how I explained I never got cut out as a white guy of the cartel. The whole shipment stolen goods thing is because I was the guy who had the contact at the checkpoint in the port of entry. And I knew all about that stuff because in McAllen, there was a public corruption squad, and they worked that stuff all the time. You get 10 to 15 grand to turn your head for 3 minutes just to let them get through. So 5 to 15, depending on the guy or the shipment. But it was all factual. So all I'm doing is just regurgitating what's real. And then that's when we did up the ante on that one. That one that was a collective decision to say, okay, we've done as much as we can here. We're where we need to be. They've been asking for this. Let's talk about it and let's see. And that's when we did they helped cover the deal of the dope. We had 40 kilos of cocaine and 1,000 pounds of weed that went from one truck to the next.
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the interview. If you got anything out of this video at all, please like the video, leave me a comment, tell me what you thought of the video, tell me who you'd like to see on the show. I really appreciate the support. It goes a long way on these platforms, as you guys know. Most importantly, I have some excellent interviews coming up in the future that I'm really, really excited about. So please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of them. But that's it. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it, and hope to see you again soon.